The year was 2487. Earth had finally been invited to stand before the Galactic Council, a gathering of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. After centuries of isolation and advancement, humanity was now ready to take its place among the stars. James Ward, Earth's first official diplomatic envoy, stood inside a sleek shuttle ship as it approached the massive Celestar Aspire. The station floated above the Andari system, orbiting two bright suns. It was larger than any human-made structure, shining like a beacon of authority and order. It was here that peace treaties were made, wars were ended, and fates of worlds were decided. James stared out the window. His eyes took in the glowing panels, rotating platforms, and starships of many shapes and colors docked around the station. He straightened his uniform and adjusted the translation device in his ear. The moment he had trained for his entire life was finally here. The shuttle gently docked. A quiet chime signaled the airlock's seal. James took a deep breath and stepped forward. Two guards waited outside. They were tall and thin, with blue-scaled skin and four glowing eyes, members of the Tarnathi species. Without speaking, they nodded and began walking. James followed them through long, curved halls lit by soft white light. The walls shimmered with holograms, showing the history of the Council. James saw images of wars, alliances, and the signing of peace pacts. Earth wasn't in any of them yet. As they walked, he passed other beings, some floating on anti-gravity pods, others gliding on metallic limbs or walking upright with cloaks and crests. Every species seemed to pause for a second to look at him. A human, walking among them. The guards stopped in front of a massive set of doors. They were silver, with strange glowing symbols moving slowly across their surface. This was the entrance to the Grand Council chamber. The doors slid open with a hiss. A bright, pure light flooded the hallway. James stepped inside. The chamber was enormous. Hundreds of seats were arranged in rising circles around a central floor. Each seat belonged to a different species, with its own atmosphere field and gravity settings. Some platforms floated, some rested firmly on the ground, and others shimmered with energy. The delegates filled their seats, their eyes already fixed on him. And then silence. Not a whisper, not a breath, just complete heavy silence. James kept walking. Each step echoed softly as he moved toward the center of the chamber. He stood alone, in a large circular platform, with nothing but a glowing seal beneath his feet, the mark of a neutral speaker. He looked up and saw hundreds of eyes, tentacles, sensors and antennae focused on him. "I am James Ward," he said, his voice steady, "representative of the United Earth Federation. I come with peace and purpose. Humanity is ready to join the Galactic Council." The silence lingered. Then a deep rumbling voice echoed from the highest row. "So the humans finally arrive." James turned his gaze upward. Standing tall with armor that shimmered like molten metal, was a powerful being with red skin, 4 eyes, and a crown of bone-like horns. His voice carried power and judgment. "I am High Chancellor Vorak of the Zalari Dominion," he said, "and I question the Council's wisdom in allowing a species so young and so violent into this chamber." James said nothing yet. He had expected resistance. Vorak continued, "You claim peace, yet your history is filled with war. You speak of unity, yet your world is divided. Why should we believe you are ready for the stars?" A few murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement. Others remained silent, watching carefully. James took a slow breath and raised his head. "Humanity has made mistakes," he said. "We've learned through struggle. We are not perfect, but we've grown. We've built, explored, and reached for the stars, not to conquer, but to connect. We believe we have something to offer, not just technology, but understanding, courage, a new voice in this great alliance." He paused. "I don't ask you to forget our past. I ask you to see our future." Silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was thoughtful. Some delegates turned to each other. Others kept their eyes on James. Vorak narrowed his gaze but said nothing more. "For now, James stood still in the center of the chamber. His heart was pounding, but his face remained calm. The silence held. But James had made his entrance. James stood outside the council chamber, staring out a tall glass wall that showed the stars stretching endlessly across space. His first appearance was over, but the weight of it still sat heavily on his shoulders. The silence, the judging eyes, and Chancellor Vorok's words echoed in his mind. He knew this would be hard. He just didn't expect to feel so alone. An assistant, a small spherical robot, hovered beside him. "Envoy Ward, your diplomatic quarters are prepared. Would you like an escort?" James nodded politely. "Yes, thank you." As he walked through the halls of the Celestar Aspire, he passed dozens of alien delegates and their aides. Some were tall and insect-like, others flowed like liquid in containment suits. Most avoided eye contact. A few stared, their expressions unreadable. No one spoke. When James reached his quarters, the doors slid open with a soft hum. The room was clean and elegant, with soft lighting and a wide view of the stars. A holographic panel displayed council schedules and upcoming sessions. He sat on the edge of the bed and rubbed his eyes. "I need to make contact," he whispered. "I need allies." The next morning, he prepared for the networking session, a social gathering where delegates could meet informally. It was held in a large domed hall filled with floating tables, food units from 100 worlds, and ambient music that shifted tones depending on who passed by. James stepped inside and instantly felt the tension. The room grew quieter. Heads turned. Conversations slowed. He took a deep breath and walked to the nearest table where 3 delegates stood. One had smooth silver skin and long fingers that shimmered. Another looked like a moving pile of stones. The third had soft fur and wide, curious eyes. "Good evening," James said gently. "May I join you?" The delegates glanced at each other. The one with silver skin spoke. "We were just leaving." And they did, without another word. James stood there for a moment, alone at the table. He clenched his jaw and moved on. He tried again and again. Some gave short replies. Others turned away before he even spoke. It was clear that most of them didn't trust him or humanity. They remembered Earth's violent past. They feared what humans might become. Hours passed. Finally, as he sat near a glowing wall, trying to blend in, a soft voice spoke beside him. "You're very persistent." James turned. A tall, aquatic being with translucent skin and gentle eyes stood next to him. Her gills pulsed softly at her neck. She extended a hand, webbed and graceful. "I am Sarala of the Meridi clans," she said. "We live in the oceans of Navalis Prime." James smiled and shook her hand gently. "James Ward, Earth." "I know," she said. "Everyone knows. You've made quite the entrance." "I hope that's a good thing," he said with a small chuckle. She tilted her head. "That depends on what you do next." They spoke for several minutes. Sarala asked questions, real questions, not about Earth's weapons or wars, but about human art, emotion and dreams. James answered honestly, thankful for someone who saw beyond Earth's headlines. Before she left, she placed a glowing data crystal on the table. "Not everyone here believes in fear," she said. "Some of us believe in change." After she left, James stared at the crystal in his hand. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Across the hall, hidden in the shadows, Chancellor Vorok watched. He tapped a device on his wrist. "Prepare the files," he growled. "Let them see who humans really are." The next morning, James sat alone in his quarters. The lights were dim, and the stars outside blinked quietly, as if waiting for something. He had barely slept. The welcome he received so far had been cold. Even with Sarala's brief kindness, most of the Galactic Council still viewed him with suspicion. He stood and walked to the display panel on the wall. With a wave of his hand, it lit up, showing the Council's agenda for the day. There was a special session called by High Chancellor Vorok, the topic Review of Human History and Behavior. James's heart sank. He knew what that meant. Vorek was going to use Earth's past to destroy any chance of their future. Hours later, the Grand Chamber filled once again. Delegates settled into their seats. The lights dimmed slightly, and Vorek stepped into the center circle. The council, he began, must not take lightly the decision to admit a new species into our alliance, especially one with such a troubled past. He raised his hand. A holographic screen appeared above him. It began to play images and clips: wars, riots, nuclear explosions, civil unrest, footage from Earth's darkest chapters. Screams echoed through the speakers. Fire and destruction filled the chamber. Delegates turned their heads in discomfort. Some looked shocked, others whispered among themselves. "These are your humans," Vorek said, his voice cold. "Their history is violence. Their answer to disagreement is blood. How can such a species be trusted among us?" James watched from his seat in silence, fists clenched. He wanted to speak out, but he knew it wasn't the right moment. His time would come. The hologram ended. Vorek turned slowly to the council. "Let me remind you," he said, "that peace was earned here through discipline and control. Humanity has shown neither." He returned to his seat. The silence that followed was heavy. No one spoke. Finally, James stood and walked to the center. "I won't deny what you've seen," he said calmly. "Those events are real. They're part of our past, but they're not our whole story." Some delegates raised their eyes. Others looked skeptical. "We've made mistakes," James continued. "Terrible ones. But we've also created beauty. We've cured diseases, ended hunger in many regions, and sent missions across our solar system, not to conquer, but to learn. Our past is not perfect, but we are growing. We are learning." He looked directly at Vorek. "Your council exists because your species chose peace over war. Let us choose the same path. Let us stand beside you and continue learning together." The chamber remained quiet. Then a delegate, a tall plant-like being with glowing leaves, leaned forward. "Words are easy, human," it said, "but trust is not." James nodded. "Then let me earn it." That night, James returned to his quarters. His head ached. The weight of his responsibility felt heavier than ever. He stared out into space, wondering if Earth had any real chance here. Just then, a message pinged on his console. It was from Earth. A video message from his father. James opened it. His father's face appeared, older now, but kind and familiar. "I know this isn't easy, son," he said. "But you were chosen because you never gave up on people, on peace, or on hope. Whatever happens, remember this. You carry more than a flag. You carry a dream." The message ended. James smiled faintly. His strength returned. Tomorrow, he would try again. The next day began quietly. James stood in front of the mirror in his quarters, adjusting his collar. His eyes looked tired, but focused. After the harsh debate in the council chamber, he knew he had little support. Vorek's attack had worked. Many delegates saw Earth as dangerous, but James wasn't ready to give up. He opened the day's schedule and noticed something: a small trade session between two alien factions, the Venari Guild and the Zoltec Coalition. A quiet note marked it as delicate. James saw an opportunity. Instead of attending the usual council meetings, he made his way to the trade hall. The room was smaller than the grand chamber, filled with tall, glowing columns and curved discussion tables. Two groups faced each other. The Venari looked like tall birds with long necks and feathers that shimmered. The Zoltec were thick-skinned reptilian creatures with gold scales and deep voices. Tension filled the room. "We offered fair rates," snapped a Venari trader. "But your side keeps changing the terms. Our ships were attacked in your sector last cycle," one of the Zoltec growled. "We don't forget such things." The discussion was falling apart. James stepped forward. "I apologize for the interruption," he said calmly. "But may I offer a suggestion?" Both sides turned, surprised. "You have no place here, human," one of the Zoltec hissed. "I'm not here to interfere," James replied. "I'm here to listen and help, if I can." The Venari delegate narrowed her eyes. "And why would we trust your advice?" Because I don't represent either side, James said. And because humans know a lot about conflict, maybe I can help you avoid it. The room fell silent for a moment. Then slowly, the Venari gestured to a chair. Speak. James sat and listened carefully to both sides. He asked simple, direct questions. He clarified points they had misunderstood about each other. Bit by bit, the anger started to cool. After 2 hours, an agreement was reached. The Zoltec would get increased protection for their trade routes. The Venari would adjust their rates and guarantee delivery dates. Both sides nodded. The Venari delegate looked at James. You speak plainly. That is rare here. The Zoltec added. Your actions do not match the stories we've heard. James smiled. Maybe it's time to hear new stories. Word of the successful negotiation spread quickly through the station. A few delegates approached James later in the day, some out of curiosity, others with cautious respect. Back in his quarters that night, James found a new message waiting for him. It was from Sarala, the aquatic diplomat he had met days earlier. She appeared on screen, her eyes soft and glowing. You're changing minds, she said. Keep going. James replied with a simple thank you. He felt a small but growing sense of hope. The walls were still high, but cracks were beginning to show. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the council chamber, Vorik watched a screen showing James's growing influence. He's gaining sympathy, he muttered. It's time to act. He pressed a button on his control pad. Prepare the vessel. I want the next human ship to make a mistake, one they won't recover from. The alarms rang across the Celestara spire. James rushed through the glowing corridors, his boots echoing with each step. A security message flashed on every screen. Human cargo vessel under attack, origin unknown. His heart dropped. The Unity Star, a peaceful Earth ship carrying supplies and cultural gifts, had been ambushed while approaching the station. It wasn't a warship. It had no weapons. Inside the council chamber, delegates filled their seats in a storm of whispers and suspicion. Verax stood at the center once again. This is what we feared, he said, voice sharp and strong. Even under peaceful banners, humans bring danger. Their ship drew an attack, and perhaps not by accident. James arrived, chest tight, jaw clenched. He stepped forward. The Unity Star was unarmed, he said clearly. We sent it as a symbol of trust. We don't even know who attacked it. Verac turned slowly. So you claim. But how convenient that your ship stirs violence just as you seek membership here. James scanned the crowd. Fear was spreading. Delegates were shaken. Doubts filled the air like smoke. James raised his hand. I request to speak to the council. Fully, now. The lead moderator, a calm, glowing being called High Speaker Lyra, nodded once. You may speak. James stepped into the center of the chamber. Every eye turned to him. He looked up, scanning the room. I won't pretend this doesn't look bad, he began. A human ship attacked just outside your gates. Some may think it proves we don't belong here. He paused, breathing slowly. But I ask you to think deeper. Why would we send a defenseless ship, full of art and gifts, if we meant to cause harm? Why would we risk everything now, at the moment of hope? No one answered. James continued. History remembers our wars. It remembers our anger, our struggles, our mistakes, and yes, we carry that with us. But that is not all we are. He raised a small glowing object from his pocket, a recording from the Unity Star. A hologram played in the center of the room. It showed children from Earth drawing pictures of alien worlds. It showed scientists preparing data to share. It showed families writing messages of peace. This was what the Unity Star carried. James said quietly. Not weapons, not threats, just hope. The chamber was still, silent again. But not with fear, with thought. I can't erase our past, James said. But I can promise our future will be different if you give us the chance to stand with you, not apart. He looked at Verac. You say we are dangerous. I say we are determined. You say we are wild. I say we are willing. Willing to learn. Willing to change. James turned back to the council. Let us prove it. Let Earth become not your fear, but your friend. Silence again. Then slowly, High Speaker Lyra rose. The council will now vote. One by one, lights blinked across the room, some red, some blue. Tension hung heavy. James watched, barely breathing. When the final light blinked, Lyra turned. By narrow majority, Earth is granted provisional membership to the Galactic Council. Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates clapped. Others remained still. James stood silently. He had done it. Across the room, Farak said nothing, but his eyes burned with quiet anger. James left the chamber as the doors slid shut behind him. His hands trembled, but his face was calm. Earth had a voice now, and James had found it. James stood at the window of his quarters, watching the twin suns rise over the distant edge of the Celestara spire. Their light reflected off the metallic surface of the station, bathing it in warm gold and silver. For the first time since he arrived, he allowed himself to breathe deeply. Earth was in. The message from High Speaker Lyra had already been transmitted across the galaxy. The United Earth Federation has been granted provisional membership to the Galactic Council. On Earth, billions celebrated. In space, Earth's allies sent messages of congratulations. And aboard the station, James Ward became the name everyone suddenly wanted to know. He had been invited to a small gathering with the delegates, who voted in Earth's favor. Surila was there, smiling softly. "You did it," she said. James shook his head gently. "We did it. You believed in me when no one else did." "Not everyone believes yet," she said. "But they're listening now." At the center of the gathering hall, James delivered a short speech. He didn't speak with loud passion, but with steady calm. "We don't come here as saviors," he said. "We come as learners. We come to build trust, to offer what we can, and to grow beside you." The room responded with respectful silence and soft applause. Later, walking through the corridor, James passed a delegation of younger species, new members, much like Earth. They saluted him with nods and respectful words. He realized that Earth's presence had inspired others. If humanity could earn a place, maybe others could too. But not all reactions were warm. As James entered a quiet lounge area, he found Chancellor Vorik waiting. The tall Zalari stood with arms behind his back, eyes fixed on the stars. "You've won, for now," Vorik said without turning. "I didn't come to win," James replied. "I came to join." Vorik finally looked at him, expression cold but calm. "You speak well, human, but words are wind. The galaxy is not built on speeches. It's built on strength." James nodded slowly. "Then I hope we show you strength in peace, not war." Vorik gave a small nod, turned and walked away without another word. James was left alone, standing in silence. That night, back in his quarters, James received a private message. A symbol flashed on the screen, a seal he didn't recognize. He opened it. A distorted voice spoke. "You've gained a seat, but not all seats are equal. Watch your back, human. This council holds deeper secrets than you know." The message ended. The screen went black. James sat quietly, staring into the stars. He knew this was only the beginning. Earth had a place now, but keeping it would be another battle. Still, he smiled, because the first step had been taken. The silence that had met him on the first day was gone. Now there were voices, questions, interest, and maybe even hope. James stood, walked to the window, and placed his hand on the glass. "For Earth," he whispered, "and for all who believe in better."